I warned all of you that Mark Carney was not the man that he claimed to be. Though, despite doing a debate in French in Quebec for the Liberal leadership, he refuses an invitation by the French language channel TVA to have a debate with the leaders in French. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. I'm your host. I have mentioned from the very beginning that Mark Carney is not who he claims to be. And many people, including me, have said that he's not very Canadian. Now he has refused to take a debate on channel TVA in Quebec. I've heard a couple of stories. They're saying on the one hand they don't have 75 grand. It seems to me that he should have saved this trip to France and just used that 75 grand instead. Then I heard another one on X that says that he just doesn't want to have the debate on TVA. He'll only have it on the CBC. I suppose that was some backbencher, some staffer's idea to try and salvage some staffer who doesn't understand how Quebec works at all. Because in Quebec, even the English speakers watch TVA for Quebec news. They listen to CBC radio when they're in the car, when they're doing all the things that get their podcasts to them. But when they're watching about Quebec, when they're looking at the news, they look at TVA. It's the most popular news in the province, which means that there are people who get every ounce of their news from that channel. And by people, I mean 80% of the province. I think we can see plainly that Mark Carney doesn't care about any of the things in Quebec. Now, if I was in Quebec and I was choosing between the Liberals and the Bloc, I would absolutely choose the Bloc, because at least the Bloc is going to look after my best interest. Mark Carney is going to ignore you the second that he gets what he wants from you. He's going to ignore all of us. He's going to decide that he's emperor of the country and do whatever he wants, and the rest of us are going to have to sit idly by and suck it. Right now, I just want to cover all of the things that Mark Carney has been running away from in his short little time since he's announced that he wants to have an election on the shortest time span that the law in Canada permits. Over on X, I have where I got the information about him only doing debates on CBC is from Canada Proud. Mark Carney is backing out of the TVA French language debate, declaring he will only do debates on CBC and Radio Canada, which is just one of the worst things you could say. I mean, if you were really looking for a reason for everybody to turn CBC off, you're going to find that. I mean, it's bad enough that CBC doesn't allow, like that Google will only throw CBC CTV in your searches when you try to find something. Now, Mark Carney is just basically declaring that they are his in his back pocket, that he will only do debates on their channel because, they will protect him. They will edit it correctly. They will ask him softball questions. They will interfere and intervene when people try to run him down or call him out on his BS, which he is, more and more full of with every passing day. Marty up north, he made a funny one. He said TVA should still hold the French debate, but use a cardboard cutout of Carney, just like the good old days of, how funny would that be? Cardboard Carney, huh? Cutout Carney, cutout cardboard Carney. Could become a hashtag. It's not a bad idea. I believe that that's what they should be doing. There's still a lot of people in the race. Mark Carney's not the only one. So why should he be the one just because he's the resident, he's the sitting quote unquote prime minister? Doesn't mean that we have to revolve all of our debates around him. He doesn't have to show up. It'll be the same thing. It amounts to the same thing. If he doesn't show up and we don't have a French language debate, or if he shows up and we have a French language debate, it'll just be like Mark Carney wasn't there. I mean, Jagmeet's French is okay. Poilievre's French is okay. Blanchet's French is, of course, it's perfect Quebecois. So why are we holding back for Mark Carney? Because in Quebec, they now realize that the Liberal Party doesn't care about them. The Liberal Party, Mark Carney, don't care about any of us. They just want to make sure that they can get into power. They will tell you anything you want to hear. They will do whatever they think you want to see in an effort to get the power so that they can turn around just like they did in 2022, ignore all of our problems, ignore all of our wants, ignore all of our needs, force all kinds of carbon restrictions down our throats and pass ram laws through that Canadians do not agree with, Canadians do not think are fair, ignore 80% or 90% of the country with don't forget they're a minority government. So why would we stop the whole thing just because Mark Carney, when obviously by Mark Carney saying I'm not going to show up, it amounts to the same thing. Yves-François Blanchet deserves the right to to talk to the Quebecois people. He deserves that right. And I suppose now, I guess TVA can just interview him and run him 100 times because Mark Carney is afraid to talk to him in French. Mark Carney's decided that the French speakers of Manitoba, the French speakers of New Brunswick, and the French speakers of Quebec, of which there are high concentrations in every one of those regions of Canada, they don't, they're not interested. He's not interested in what you're thinking about, especially if you can only speak French. If French is your primary language, of which there are a lot of people outside of Quebec that still have French as their primary language. But he doesn't care. He doesn't care what you're thinking. He doesn't care what you want from him. He doesn't care what he has to do because he's not a Canadian. Where Mark Carney becomes really pathetic is that he smirked when one of the reporters asked him if he was going to have the debate in French. It was a little while before they released that they were refusing to do it because it's the CBC platform or it's the 75 grand, depending on which one that you want to believe. What I believe is that he's scared. That he doesn't care what you think about him. So long as he gets control of the country, then he will do whatever he wants. He doesn't understand the importance of the French vote any more than the guy that he kicked out and stole his seat. I picked this up from Rebel News, and I want you to hear the question, and then it's not long, it's like 20 seconds, but pay attention to the facial expressions.
Bonjour, Monsieur Carney, c'est Fanny Olivier de Radio-Canada. Le chef conservateur Pierre Poilievre vous met au défi de participer au face-à-face de TVA. Est-ce que vous allez le faire?
Pourquoi pas?
Pourquoi pas?
Oui, pourquoi pas, oui. Il y aura...
If I didn't mention, I picked it up from Sheila Gunn Reid, who is a journalist for Rebel News. And on her tweet, her post for this, she writes, "What a clown. Carney agrees to the TVA debate with Poilievre, even mocking the suggestion that he wouldn't, like somehow Poilievre is, he's not afraid of Poilievre. I guess he's not afraid of Poilievre as long as he's got the RCMP and the Newfoundland Constabulary between him and Poilievre." Then immediately backs out of the debate after the cameras stop rolling because they'll try to put this soundbite out. That's why it's important that you listen to the people around you so that you can understand, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum, whether you be extremely on the one side or extremely on the other side, what you have to understand is that there's only one person in the race that's going to care about what you're going through, that's going to solve the problems of your life. And after that, does it matter? When you have money, prosperity, security, and a safe, secure fridge full of food and a safe, secure rent, does it really matter where you fall, which side of the coin you come down on? As long as everybody eats and everybody's got a safe place to sleep, then they can all go about their day without any problem. I'll tell you the one thing that is a definite unifier: hunger. That is absolutely a definite unifier. It's amazing how many lines will get crossed when you're all sharing that same base urge to eat something. Mark Carney doesn't seem to care about that, right? That's why he went after the fishermen and doesn't, put the Newfoundland Constabulary between him and them, and then went inside and said, "I'm here for you. As long as you don't come anywhere near me, try to talk to me, or want anything from me." Anyway, I'll go on. Under the Sheila Gunn post, Ronaldo writes this: "What is this? Was some clown named Carney. Pierre Poilievre offered him a debate which scared the out of him, and that's all that's left is just an empty suit." Right on. This Minnie wrote, "Wow, this guy keeps getting more arrogant and off-putting." Well, if you didn't understand that he's off-putting from the very beginning, I suppose that's why he doesn't want anybody to look at him. That's why he wants to have no debate in French, and he wants to have the shortest election span permitted by law, because he doesn't want people to take a deep look. He doesn't want people to start to feel the economic destruction that's coming. I mean, I look at the numbers and I tell you, there's no jobs coming out of January. Inflation is back up to 2.7, I believe. So I don't hear them talking about any of that right now. It's getting worse and worse with every passing day, because any second now, April 2nd is going to get here, and there's a lot of industry flying out of Canada into the United States before that April 2nd kicks in. Here's Paul saying this is the kind of forthright courage our polls should exhibit. Carney at Edmonton, March 20. Carney says he opposes preset caps on the CBC. Then on the CTV in Ottawa, Carney keeping emissions caps on oil and gas. I think we can understand that people are rightly upset with the hypocrisy of Carney. I think we can appreciate that the back and, saying out of both sides of his mouth, doing one thing, then doing another, indicates a man who doesn't care what he says so long as you give him your vote. Jagmeet Singh was asked what his opinion on it is. Well, it was on his tour bus because he's in Quebec, ironically.
There are issues that are very unique to Quebec, language issues, issues that are hitting differently in Quebec. And the fact that Mark Carney has now refused to participate in this debate will cancel this debate. Canceling this debate is insulting to Quebecers. It takes away an opportunity to hear from people on issues that matter to the people of Quebec. It's about the insult to Quebecers, the lack of respect for an opportunity for them to have their issues put front and center.
It is telling that Jagmeet Singh understands the situation more than Mark Carney. And I think this is what comes when you try to put a banker in charge of a country. He doesn't understand, especially a country as diverse as Canada, especially a country that has, as much languages spoken in it as there are on earth. Now, Mark Carney doesn't seem to want to understand that. Mr. Elbows Up seems to be scared senseless to even talk to somebody in French with cameras rolling. So if the French individual says to them that I want something from the government, how are they supposed to be looked after? The Liberal Party is obviously not going to be doing that because as soon as they come to Mark Carney with the problem, he'll just tell them to go away. He'll just ignore them like he's doing now. If he doesn't want to show his face in Quebec because he thinks that he has some sort of kick in the polls and that the Québécois are not relevant, the Québécois only provide him with a third of his seats, then maybe he, is seeing something that I'm not. But I can tell you, as a person who understands many things about the province of Quebec, that you absolutely are going to do yourself a favor by either voting Conservative or by voting Bloc. Because the Liberal Party is clearly, they've lost, their focus. They've had 10 years of running roughshod all over Canadians, and they're going to do the same to Quebec. As soon as it suits their purpose, they'll do the same to anybody in Brampton. They'll do the same to anybody in Toronto Centre. They will do it to whomever they want, whenever they want, just like they were doing under Justin Trudeau a year ago. They haven't changed. All of the other players except for Justin Trudeau are identically the same. There's no difference. So you can say, well, it was all Justin Trudeau that made me do it, but you still did it. You did it knowing that it was going to cause harm to your constituents. You did it knowing that it was going to cause destruction to the people that had voted for you. So who's to blame? Is it you for doing it, or is it Justin Trudeau for getting you to do it? Or is it just that the Liberal Party doesn't care what people like me think? That they don't care what people who voted for them think. As long as they got into the office, as long as they think that they can win have the law tell them that, it's 4 more years before I have to worry about what you're saying. I mean, Poilievre said a year and a half ago that they'll wait until 30 days before the election and they'll make you all these promises. And look at what's happened. Here they are making all kinds of promises that are half-truths, promises that are just a whole bunch of hair splitting that can easily be reversed within the first 24 hours after the next election. You have to be careful. And you have to ask yourself, how is it that Mark Carney is so bad at politics that even Jagmeet Singh can take a run at him? And then ask yourself if you really think that that's the kind of person that is going to look after you. Now I'm going to show you what Yves-François Blanchet said.
So far, I don't know what he's not afraid of. This guy is supposed to be strong enough to face Donald Trump, which is one of the biggest threats on democracy and freedom for a long time. I will face the guy. And then we say, hey, come in Quebec and discuss with us because you want us to vote for you. Oh, I won't go. And so I'm saying to him, hey, let's come and face the music. Yes. That's the intention of Mr. Carney. I want to rob the Bloc Québécois, which I have refused to acknowledge so far, of a very important stage on which they could force me to reveal something of a program about which I have said nothing so far. This is not the behavior of somebody which has been well equipped with courage.
Oh, the diplomacy. I mean, not someone, this is not the action of someone who has been well equipped with courage. I mean, I've never really heard a smoother insult in a political circle than that. That was pretty good, really. And I don't even know if you can call it an insult so much as it's fact. I mean, when he was asked, he made a big huffle because he heard the name Poilievre, and he is desperate to try and make everybody think that he's not afraid of Poilievre, and then it turns out that he's just afraid of Poilievre. And he wants you to believe that he's a big tough toughie when it comes to Trump, but he won't even talk to people in French. He won't even campaign in the province of Quebec. And I'm sure now that they're probably juggling their schedule to try and make you think that he'll make a couple of bus passes through, some of the softer regions of Quebec. He refused to do the debate. The debate would have covered the entire province. People would have tuned in. There would have been a very large amount of people watching that. And I think that, personally, I believe that they should hold the debate anyway. I believe that it'll send an enormous message that the three of them have a debate and leave Carney out of it. I think that the fact that Carney is not going to be sticking his nose into the future of Canada should be made clear by not having the debate. I mean, if you're not going to debate in French, then you're not qualified to be a Canadian Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister in Canada has to have a French and an English debate. He has to do that because those are the laws of the land. And Mark Carney's always talking about the laws of the land. He's always talking about how he's, Mr. Big Tough Toughie, and he's going to take on the entire world. And if you just get out of his way, he's going to lead you into wherever. He's going to lead us into ruin. And the only reason that he is telling you those things is because he knows they aren't true. So he's running and hiding. He's hiding behind all of the kinds of flimsy excuses that people like that often create. In truth, we all know that if he was serious about leading the country, if he was serious about solving the problems that his party, Justin Trudeau, and all of the people that he has, Mark Carney now currently has around him, including Mark Carney, who was there 7 of the 9 last budgets, if they were really serious about helping Canadians, they would be taking it seriously. Now, I'll cover some of the foolishness that Mark Carney's trying to promise you will make a difference in your life, like 1% of your income tax. I mean, it's shocking, just out of touch, out of reality. And I will say this once again, that if you throw your vote away on this man, the poverty that is coming your way will be only yours to blame. Because Mark Carney is not a good leader. He's not a leader. I get that he's used to being in charge, but that's not the same thing at all. The list of people that I can name that have been in charge and are not good leaders would fill a book. All right, I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.